welcome to our YouTube channel. I am Nomfundo Madonsela.
Good evening, guys. I'm Tema Madonsela.
Yes, and this is our third video where we are discussing and touching on our journey as a blended family.
Yep. Last week we did our video on the 4 pitfalls after a breakup.
Yes, and that was quite interesting to go through. If you've not yet seen the video, please do go and check the video just before this one. And be sure to like and share your comments if you have anything to say on the content of the video.
Yep. We're going through this week. We're focusing on... What are we focusing on?
This week we are going to touch on legal and financial considerations for anyone or persons who are going through a separation. So basically, it's legal and financial considerations during your time of separation.
All right. So just a recap, right? So we're saying you've separated with your partner.
Yeah.
There's things legally you have to sort of consider.
Yes.
And there's things financially you have to consider.
Yes, 100%. And we do want to say again, this is a very trying and a challenging time for a lot of people. And a lot of times, these are the last things that you actually want to be thinking about, but they have such a huge implication on your life going forward. A separation is one of the things that I could term as a milestone in somebody's life. It's a big event. So it's not something to be ignored and for you to just simply go carry on living your life as if you've not experienced this major event. You need to stop and look at legal issues and look at financial issues.
So maybe just a question. So what happens if I don't consider these legal considerations? What are the implications?
Look, I can make an example from my side. I think I work within the law.
Okay.
And I've seen instances where people have separated 10 years ago.
All right.
In terms of a divorce decree, and somebody was supposed to receive the full property. Let's say people held the property in half shares, and then they didn't go and give effect to the divorce decree or the settlement agreement. And then 10 years later, you want to sell, you want to bond your property, and then they're like, hey, but there's two holders or registered owners of this property, and you're like, but I'm divorced, here's my divorce decree. And then we come and tell you, listen, at that time you were supposed to do what we call a section 45 half share transfer or endorsement to your spouse.
So this can then come back to affect your whatever relationship you have then or marriage you have at that time.
100%.
Okay, so it's
certain
important.
Certain considerations. So
all right.
I will touch on the legal aspects, and I would like for you to touch on the financial. I don't know if you want to go first.
No, let's do legal.
Let's do the legal then. So these I'm going to touch on things that I find or consider important for people who are going through a separation and are starting their lives afresh.
Okay.
One, when there are children involved. When there are children involved, and let's say, look, I'm speaking from a perspective of people who have been married, who are separating, who have been married, but we know that you can separate even when you were just...
Lobola,
yes, but Lobola is actually a marriage
in terms
of the law. Yeah,
okay.
Lobola is a marriage in terms of our law, but we were just together, and we had children, and now we separate. Remember, it can get very hostile when it comes to issues pertaining to the children. So you must know that there are places there is a place called the Office of the Family Advocate who can sit and help you draw a parenting plan.
Okay.
Even with parties who are separated or who are divorcing rather, and there are children involved. The Office of the Family Advocate wants to endorse the arrangement, basically any arrangements pertaining to the minor child. So in that instance, there will be a parenting plan that will be drawn up.
Okay.
My humble request is that people learn to keep to the parenting plan so that we can have fewer disputes between the parties. Yes. So the parenting plan would say things like the child will be with me every second weekend.
Okay.
During the holidays, long holidays, first holidays with you, second holidays with me, we alternate on birthdays. That's the parenting plan that I'm speaking
and just to come in there, and I think it's so crucial at the beginning, especially when emotions and all of these things are still high, that we keep to it, because then over time we start sort of to find a pattern and a rhythm to it, and it becomes a sort of a nice working relationship.
100%.
Okay.
Over time, we will learn even to maybe, dare I say, compromise. Because let's say it was my weekend, but it was my weekend to be with the child, but you are going to
cry at the other family
at
or
the other
party.
family. You wanted to take the child, and you request, I can gladly say, oh yes, 100% take the child, we'll swap weekends or whatever it is that we do. But at the beginning, it's important to keep to the parenting plan to minimize any disputes between the parties. Okay. Then the second one that I want to speak about is, let's say there's a divorce decree or a settlement agreement, and there are certain provisions that pertain to who gets what. And I used earlier on the example of the house. I've seen so many times people having big problems 10 years, 15 years after they have been married, where they now want to maybe sell the property. And then we are like, but this property is registered in two people's names. And then we present a divorce decree. And maybe we look at the manner in which the divorce decree is worded to say who gets the property, and we say, it's a bit vague. We might have a little bit of a problem here, in moving forward. Now we've got to involve your ex-partner. We've now got to do a lot of things, and maybe it's been an area where you don't really want to visit. You don't really want to involve this person in billion yako anymore. So it's important. If the settlement agreement, the divorce decree says these are the assets that you take, deal with that, whatever the divorce decree, implement it. If there's properties involved and you are requiring properties, go to attorneys and say, here's my divorce decree, here's my settlement agreement, please give effect to the conditions of these documents. That's number 2. Number 3, we have wills, we have policies. When something major happens like a breakup, it's important to sit down and think, okay, this person was a beneficiary in my will. This person was a beneficiary in my policies. Do I need to re-look at that? Would I still like for them to inherit? Would I still like them to be the nominated beneficiary under my policy? Because it's not all the time that people who have divorced or have separated, they actually want to remove the other party. But also sometimes it's not something that they consider, and then maybe you wanted to reduce the benefit that this person was going to receive, and then later something happens, and then somebody gets something that you did not intend for them to get. So it's important, according to to me, if I put it that way,
I'm also
to
thinking
think about those things.
Funeral plans as well. So if you've got a funeral plan
things,
and the beneficiary was the previous partner, just ensure that maybe you do changes if you would like to do changes. But if you don't, if you're going to keep the other partner, there's nothing wrong with that. It's your decision. But as long as you exercise and implement and think and consider that those have legal implications.
100%, they do have legal implications. So if we get a will and your family comes and they say, yeah, but this person was they divorced 20 years ago, and she said we can't go on that. We just simply go on, sorry, there's a will, and in terms of this will, this person gets the entire estate. And then now there's also conflict within the family. So these are just certain things that you can
causing unnecessary tension.
Unnecessary tension, unnecessary effort and time consuming to a certain degree, because we didn't consider and stop to think when we had the time and the opportunity.
I think the key word is implementation, right? Because of your divorce decree is maybe discussed in court, adopted, now you have to implement it. So who's going to be proactive in taking the necessary steps instead of us being reactive at the end? And now there's a whole lot of issues that involved. The key word is implementation.
I think those are just the ones that I wanted to touch on. There's a lot that we could perhaps go through, but I think let's move over to...
No, thank you so much. Maybe around finances. Yes. First key thing is finances impact all of us, right? Yeah. How we relate to our money, how we use our money, how we budget, how we plan is basically the whole discussion around finances. Your knowledge of finances, who do you consult? Do you have a financial planner?
Yeah.
All of that is important. So I think the first main key thing to sort of review as you go through the separation is a budget.
Yeah.
So previously you might have had a joint budget. Previously you might have had a joint income, or you might have sort of separated duties in the household. Maybe the father, I'm the husband, I would pay for the house and the cars, whatever. You do groceries and and etc., etc. But now you're alone. You need to consider that you need to have a different budget.
Yeah.
Your budget won't be the same as when you were sharing sort of responsibilities with someone else.
Yeah. And I guess it all depends on the person's financial status, and by that I mean your earning capacity.
Obviously. So, but we're talking about, I mean, with the current issues that are going on with the rise in petrol.
Sure.
You know, with things are expensive. So you need to sit down and really look at your finances and look at and say, and don't rely on too much debt, right? So when you do your finances, try to limit debt. You know, try to keep your life. You know, do the main things. Keep the main things, and ensure that you are ready to take on the future.
So it could mean that you need to downscale to a certain degree.
Don't be scared of downscaling. That's a very good point. So sometimes maybe when in a relationship, let's say you had a nice, you know, car that you could pay for when you had two incomes in the family, but all of a sudden there's one now. So don't be scared. You know, this thing with Bantu Bazuti. Be careful of that. So you must, you know, it's your life, you know, do it and ensure that you are doing it. And you take into consideration that all of a sudden now there's a new way of dealing with things, and it will need your best self 100%. To be involved. So your budgeting is very important. Now, just a trick around budgeting is that obviously everyone has a pay day. If you're employed, if you're in business, sometimes money comes, you know, as and when, you know, they pay. Ensure that if you are employed and there's a salary date, the day before, sit down, be honest with yourself, look at your income, look at your expenses and your plans for the next month, put in the numbers, let the numbers, you know, sometimes the numbers are painful when you're doing it, but let it go through, let it sink in, you know, and then when you're done, stick to it. I always say, very important, integrity. You cannot have integrity towards other people without having integrity to yourself and your budget. So when you have a budget and you can't buy that jacket or those boots, Nomfundo, that you really like, stick to the budget, right? When you stick to the budget, you will see that it might be painful in the beginning, but after a while, it gets better.
Sure, and I think you also around issues of finances, take control of your debt.
100%. I've seen it.
Take control of your debt.
Yeah. So what happens is that someone let you when you separated, maybe your my number or your number was in your partner's profile, and all of a sudden they start calling you for debt. You didn't pay your loan, you know, and say, no, I'm no longer with that person, you know. So I think you as the debt owner, you know, take accountability of it. Change the numbers, you know, make arrangements. Sometimes you get behind on payments, you know, during this time, because you're focusing on a lot of emotions on the separation, that you sort of fall back on certain loans or certain payments that you have to make. Go there, face them, and say, look, I've fallen behind. Can I pay you an extra 200 rand here, extra 500 rand here, and then you are able to then be honest and ensure that you keep up to whatever you've said you will keep up to.
Take control of your debt and have a financial plan. I think that's important, don't you think?
Yeah. Look, there's financial planners everywhere. Yeah. So it's important that you get to speak to someone who spends time in sort of working on a day-to-day basis with these things, you know, because they give you information that you're not privy of, because you only maybe think of finances when you do a budgeting here and there, but they get to sit down and they get to analyze, you know. So make sure you trust the person, make sure that the person has got your best interest at heart, right, when it comes to your will or whatever investment products that you are taking with that person, right. So ensure that it's someone that you can trust, and also do a bit of research yourself, right. Read, you know, get to understand, you know, how these things work, and in that way you'll be able to use the financial planner to your best
I know we're wrapping up there, but I just want to just throw this one in.
Throw it.
Also, you must be truthful about your finances.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's easy you think that you're financially healthy.
Yeah.
And then you kind of don't give the financial planner all the information that they need to make or to assist you in this new stance that you're now taking.
I think the foundation of that is not even with the financial planner. it's with you when you're doing your own, your own finances. I was caught up in the trap once, and I mean, the likes of Instagram, Facebook, social media. You try to keep up with this life. You need to show that you are
and
there.
Showing the other guy, your partner, which I'm doing okay.
Yeah, because he must see what's the song? Beyonce, to the left. No, okay, there's another one.
I can have
Yeah, but you're trying to show your partner that I'm doing well, I'm looking good, you're fresh, but sometimes you're doing it at your own, and then what happens is that you're only digging your own grave, and only time, then you get to see it, maybe you suffer, depression sort of creeps in.
Sure. I think maybe in conclusion, we can just say that things are not the same Vela after a separation.
There's changes.
There's big changes, and you must be man enough or woman enough to take and face those challenges and situations head on, instead of sinking your head in the sand and thinking that everything is just going to be okay somehow,
100%.
and not wanting to implement and take control of impilo yakho.
100%. And I mean, if whether it's in academics or in business strategies, the one biggest problems, even in churches come with plans, people come with plans, you come with plans, I come with plans.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of the year, the biggest problem is in the implementation. The biggest challenge to people, to societies, to communities is implementation. If you're able to look at what you need to do, implement it, create a discipline to implement those things, 100%. then in future what you will see is that you will see the rewards, and all of those things that could have hindered you and your future relationship will now be blocked, and all of a sudden you have a free flowing life because you dealt with the things that you needed to deal with in the beginning.
100%. I think we've touched on what we needed to touch on for today, and thank you for tuning in. Closing text for this evening.
Oh yes.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding.
Proverbs 3 verse 5.
In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight.
Very, very simple text. Thank you for raising that text. Give everything to God, and by giving everything to God, it doesn't mean that you won't be the implementer.
Yes,
I want to say that.
Yes.
So as you trust in God, you let God direct you, let God speak to you. You get up, you do it, you ensure that the divorce decree is being touched on, the policies are being checked, your funeral plans are being checked, and you ensure that you build yourself.
You are keeping to the parenting plan. You are checking your wills. And
implement. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, and share our videos.
Do the things that must be done. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.